Good evening. Welcome to the June 12th Village Board Work Session. This meeting is now called to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Welcome. Do we have any announcements this evening? Do you want to provide an update?
Sure. I did have a separate announcement. I
Please,
wanted
go right
to A, congratulate the Ossining Chamber of Commerce, and B, thank the Village of Ossining departments for once again making our annual fair a success. It was a beautiful day. The village had a booth mainly manned by our village planner Tracy Corbett and Mayor Garrity and Trustee Casada, which I'll let them piggyback on that later. But it was a huge success. Attendance actually picked up this year, according to the police and fair organizers. So I'm glad to still be able to say we're Westchester's largest street fair. So thanks to our village staff, that really is essential to making that event happen. It was very smooth. This morning, I was one of the many community stakeholders who attended a meeting that was convened by County Legislator Catherine Borgia, along with County Executive George Latimer and Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, and the majority of their team, Mayor Garrity, and a lot of nonprofits and stakeholders, Village Manager Dettori, list goes on, about the possibility of creating a youth bureau in Ossining. And I think it's a great full start, because what I got out of that meeting, even though I had to step out early for work, is that the county made a verbal commitment along with the village and the library and the school district, and really the safety nets, as we always do, that we are going to try to make an effort to actually make this a reality. And I'll let you touch on that, because I know I left a little earlier, or our village manager, but it was really good to actually be there. We have a lot going on, but it'd be great to finally have the opportunity to have a consolidated effort and go from there. So that's all I had. I did also have one other thing. I was informed, I left the village fair a little earlier, of some disturbing events about a local church who wasn't necessarily a booth that reflected who we are in Ossining, and Ossining for all, that is inclusive for all. And I know that I spoke to the chamber president and their board. They're working on a statement, but I could say, and my colleagues, I'm pretty sure, will agree with me on, and the chamber, that we don't condone nor accept any hate speech or anything that divides the community. And I do condemn the actions that offended a lot on Saturdays, particularly against our LGBT community in Ossining, especially coming after our inaugural flag raising last week. That's not who we are, and it's something that we're frankly just not going to tolerate in Ossining. That's not what Ossining's about. So, thank you.
Thank you for saying all that. Anybody else with comments or announcements? Then I'll pick up on a couple of the items that Trustee Herrera mentioned. I'm glad that you brought up, while the fair was a wonderful event, I really enjoyed the opportunity to continue the conversation about our comprehensive plan, and Tracy was there, Karen was there earlier in the morning to welcome people as her almost manager taking office as manager. But it is disturbing to see divisive hate speech in our community. And what was reassuring was that there were a number of people who came out and said that's not welcome in our community. And I hope that now that we had that one unfortunate experience, that perhaps there can be a conversation about how to discourage that or prevent that from future events. It's not a village event, but it is on village property, and we obviously support it with municipal services. So I think there's now would be a good time for us to have a conversation well in advance of next year's to try and prevent that kind of divisive language in our community. And I will just echo some of the comments from Trustee Herrera from this morning's meeting, with such great representation from the county executive's office, our legislator, and then the folks with their youth bureau, which we've talked about a youth bureau in Ossining for years, and there's been efforts to try and move in that direction. In fact, the original application that has become the BEAMS program, the Be Excellent at Middle School program that the Village has funded for 2 years now, that's really a step in the direction of a youth bureau that Alice Joslow is one of the people in our community who has pushed for it with her, you know, from her direction. And there's a lot of groups, and it was so well represented by so many nonprofits. And Bill Garrison was there as well. We do get a tiny bit of funding from the county right now for some of our programming. And it was, we had a very productive meeting, and then a lot of us stayed after to have one-on-one or small group conversations to see where can we go from here. And I think that that this was an important day, and I think it's going to be a turning point for us to be able to figure out how the Youth Bureau can be really a coordinating force for the programs that we have. And I think one of the points that I made, and I'm not the first one to make it in our community by any means, is we do have some really great programming, particularly for young people, both through our recreation parks and youth sports organizations, the Asking Children's Center, obviously. We have more programming for younger people than we do for our young adolescents, for our middle school and high school and young adults. And what we focused a lot more on the positive and what's going on and how we can do a better job in our community today. But the unfortunate truth is that what finally got us to sit at this table and have this conversation today was horrific tragedy that we don't want to see happen in our community again. And the Youth Bureau can be a really important tool for us to prevent violent tragedies from happening in our community. So I'm really, really pleased that we're going in that direction. And this weekend, well, it's Father's Day on Sunday, but on Saturday, head downtown for Portugal Day. And it's always a beautiful event, terrific food. I believe it starts at noon and then it goes till pretty late. So go down, get your sardines, have, oh, that's my personal favorite is the sardines. There's lots of great food there. Have some delicious cuisine and culture, and it's a really fun day down in the Market Square area. And I believe it starts at 12 noon, although it really kind of gets jumping a little later in the afternoon. All right. Yeah. Do you want to add to that?
I don't know how I forgot this, because I got pretty emotional when I read it this morning. So the Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins and Assembly Member and Speaker Carl Hastie, they announced today that the 9 bills that were better known as the Housing Justice Bills have come to an agreement. And I'm not going to read this long press release, but it's one of the most historic and comprehensive rent reform and social justice pieces of legislation that the state has had in like decades. It extends rent regulation and makes them permanent, so it will not sunset unless that is proposed in the Senate or the Assembly. It repeals high rent vacancy deregulation and high income deregulation. It reforms owner use expectation to rent regulation. It keeps stabilized apartments rented by nonprofits in the rent stabilization system. It repeals the entire vacancy bonus and longevity bonus. That's actually mainly a New York City piece. It prohibits rent guidelines boards from setting class-specific renewal increases. It makes preferential rents and base rent for lease renewal increases. It provides relief from large rent increases for rent-controlled tenants. It extends rent overcharge 4-year look-back period now to 6 years. It reforms rent increases for major capital improvements that are known as MCIs. It reforms rent increases for individual apartments. It requires an annual report from HCR and Rent Administration and Tenant Protection. It reforms co-op and condo conversations, which mainly mean requiring 50% of tenants in residence to agree to purchase apartments before the conversation can be effective. It establishes rent stabilization as an option for all municipalities in New York State. It establishes stronger housing security and tenant protections. That's a long list. I'm not even going to go into that. And lastly, it implements mobile and manufactured home tenant protection. So now it even applies to that. There's the devils are in the details, but the fact that we're at this point 2 days prior to the expiration of it is pretty historic. I feel very very proud to be part of the thousands of tenants and elected leaders and advocates that literally had to risk their lives and got arrested last week. A lot of them electeds themselves, and it's great to hear that now a program that the village has is actually permanent, and that now we actually have new regulations to make it more accessible to all. And lastly, Mayor Garrity actually, when I was in office along with the board, and later Chief Sylvester, with the support of the entire board, supported Greenlight, Project Greenlight, and that is providing a path to a driver's license to undocumented New Yorkers. And that officially passed the Assembly today, and it's going to the Senate. So it's been a pretty historic, progressive day. As you know, both of those issues have been quite the contentious and hard issues to discuss the past couple months, but great to know that we're making some progress before session ends, and how that's going to affect us. Those two areas, by the way, that I'm taking so much time right now to just highlight, affect us directly here in Ossining more than ever. So I just wanted to highlight that, and also thank the board and the mayor and the chief and everyone really who took a stand from the municipal level in Ossining to support it.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I don't give you credit, but you're the one who pushed for us in 2016, right after the presidential election, to take up the consideration of our initial resolution in support of the Albany legislation for the Greenlight Initiative to allow driver's licenses for all, regardless of documentation status. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. It made Ossining at the forefront of this conversation, and we've been very active ever since. Now we have 5 days for the Senate to take it up, and the last time I ran into Governor Cuomo, that was my question to him, was, will you sign the bill? And he said, if it's passed by both houses of legislature, I will sign it, and I will hold him to that. So now we just need Andrea Stewart-Cousins to take a stand and have the courage to bring it to her floor for a vote, and I trust that she will. All right, we have had a lot of announcements today, and I know that mostly good stuff, and I'm sure that Karen is eager to dig into her first meeting as our village manager. Welcome. We couldn't be happier.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I am thrilled to be here. Today is my 3rd day, and it has been an exciting 3 days. We kicked off with a full staff meeting on Monday with the department heads, and I have been following up with all of them in one-on-ones, and we have also been initiating work for the CFA grants, and it has been busy, busy, busy. But I want to thank Jamie Hoffman for enabling me to hit the ground running and keeping me on schedule at all times, and doing a tremendous amount of work way beyond that as well. And also I want to extend thanks to Paul Frioli for his work as interim manager and his mentoring and tutelage over the last few weeks, and certainly in the last few days, as well as my colleague, Corporation Counsel, Kahan. It's been a thrill to be here. I'm very excited, and it's so nice to be working officially with so many people that I've worked with in so many other capacities over the years. So with that, I think we should start our agenda, and I would like to introduce Tom Warren and Bill Garrison to talk about a resolution for a 2019 capital project for basketball court lighting.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees, and Karen, welcome. You know what? I'm just going to introduce Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Good evening. So I'm here. We're looking to do a project at Nelson Park, retrofitting the lights on the basketball courts there. So we're looking to request that $57,405 be moved out of the in lieu of parkland funds to fund this project. As you know, we're also working on redoing the basketball courts at Nelson Park, and we should be getting that proposal hopefully this week. So this is part of the whole overall plan of redoing the courts and retrofitting the lights that are there. I've heard in the past where you may have heard in the past where the lights are not working all the time. It's a very old, antiquated system. This new system is LED. It's going to save energy, save energy costs. Also, it fits in. It's a Musco system, which fits in with our lights at our other parks, so it can be controlled online. So if somebody was to call me up at 8 o'clock and say, hey, the lights are not on, or they are on and they shouldn't be, I can go on my phone and turn them off. It's just as simple as that. So that was one reason why we were going with this company, because it fits in with all the others. And I'll take if anybody has any questions.
Well, since we're talking about lights at Nelson Park, I do want to, it's always, I don't really have a clear story, and frankly, I don't play basketball or tennis after dark or during the day, frankly. But the tennis court lights, I know they have sort of a special history. They came to us from the USTA as a gift from, I think it was Arthur Ashe Stadium when that closed down. Are they LED, or could they ever be LED? And is there any retrofitting that is being done to them or that has been done to them that maybe I just don't recall?
So no, they're not LED. They are on a timer system. They would not be included into this retrofit. So would be an additional cost, a much greater cost than this because of the size. So that would be another project to tie that in. So they would still be on a timer. They're still the regular old lights.
But that wasn't considered. They're working. They're functioning fine, just not as efficiently as what we're looking to install in the basketball.
That's correct. And the Nelson basketball lights were not functioning fine. That was part of the
yes,
problem.
I understand. Yes, it's more urgent to take care of it. Just sometimes, just like you're doing all three of the parks at a basketball court, sometimes you sort of gang together similar projects to get economy of scale. But you're not suggesting that makes sense for us to consider.
Not at this time, just because of the cost.
Okay. All right. That was my only question. Anybody else have questions about this project? It's a very specific amount. I don't think we usually get that specific, but okay.
So I do have, I guess, a couple of questions in regards to that. Just like the mayor mentioned, you do have a specific amount. Is that the total cost plus any additional design fees attached to it, or?
It's that is the cost. That's a turnkey cost. So that what they're proposing for that is we'd be able to go in and flick on the lights and play basketball.
What is the time frame of a project like that?
Once they are 4 to 6 weeks for delivery of the material, and then it's a 1 week install.
So about a month and a half. Will the course be closed, or when is?
We would hope to get this done before the courts, because it's easier for them to drive the trucks onto the court. So we'll allow them to drive onto the court now, but we don't want them driving onto the courts once they're refinished. So we'd like to get the lights done first, and then get the court done.
What is the lifetime on this? What is the warranties on something like this? There is
for the lights. Let's see, I did see that somewhere. They have like a light bulb has a life expectancy of it. So with the LED lighting, I'm not sure what they are. I can look and try to get that information back to you. I don't have it right here with me.
Yeah, quick question, Tom. I know there was capital projects from this last year. This was not part of that at all?
No, these were all in the capital plan. The capital plan included the basketball repaving and also the lights, but our policy is they have to have a separate specific village board resolution to become a capital project. So that was my involvement, was to write the resolution to establish the capital project. And I'm actually going to combine this with the capital project for the repaving, so that we don't have an extra capital project just for this one expense. And so, that's my part of it. And I also wanted to add that this purchase is under the Sourcewell contract, which used to be the NJPA, which is a consortium that's part of our procurement policy. So we're complying with regards to that. And I'm not sure if I answered your specific question.
Okay. You did more than enough, as always. Thank you, Tom. So pretty much, what I'm hearing, this was part of the capital project that was approved by the board last year. So you're just pretty much asking for us to put a
There's a
resolution.
capital plan, but it wasn't a capital project. It's like a two-step process. The capital plan is like a roadmap, and now we're actually adopting a wordy resolution to actually establish a capital project.
Since we're talking about the basketball courts and we have you here, Bill, could you, we have 3 parks where we're doing them, and I remember you saying some parks it made sense to do first or second, or can you just update us on, it is the time of year when people are going to be playing, so there will be some disruption at one park or the other. What is the anticipation of when each park will be done?
We hope to do, since there are 3 parks being done, we would try to do 2 at a time so that at least one of the basketball courts in the village would be available for people to use. So we're not going to do Nelson and Snowden at the same time. When this is going to happen, we'll know more this week once we get our proposals back, so we can see what the actual cost is going to be. And then if we're good with that, we'll work with the company to find out what their start date is. They had told us it's about a 2-month time frame to get these courts done. So we're hoping by the end of the summer we would have these courts completed with our lights, and they would be all set to go. Which, having the lights at Nelson at the end of the summer is going to be nice because you can do some evening basketball programs right well into the fall.
Right. Then the only other project that is related to the basketball courts is if we jump over to Snowden Park, and last week we passed the resolution to name the skate park. We were talking about we were going to be facilitating the ordering of the signage for that. How is that progressing?
So we had we got a price back for the sign to name the skate park. And then just today I got proofs back for the plaque that the committee was looking for, and I passed that along to them for them to take a look at. So that was what they're going to get back to me about that.
Yeah, so it's moving right along. Thank you very much. And then we'll just wait to hear about fundraising efforts to pay for that additional sign.
Right, that's what they're looking for, was what that amount for that plaque would be, and so they could have a target.
Great.
So can I ask a related question about signage? And it's not related to any of the capital projects. I believe I had asked Paul Frioli about a week ago in regards to some additional signage throughout all our parks. What is the progress on that one?
I'm just waiting for the PO. The PO has been requested, so we're just waiting to get the PO back. The proof has been sent to the sign company. They're ready to go. They're just waiting for the PO.
If you don't mind asking, how big of the signs are? Is it going to be similar to the one that is on Nelson Park on the core side?
Is this the no
This
part?
is
This is
the
just
no smoking
Okay.
signs. No, this is the no smoking sign.
Just no smoking.
Yeah,
Okay.
no smoking.
I think it's the 18 by 24.
24? Okay.
So it's that larger
Yeah.
sign. Yeah.
All right. Just wondering about that. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I'm thinking there's one at Snowden, one I'm thinking of. So I'm not sure if it's the same one as at Nelson, but
There's only one in Nelson.
Okay.
My preference, I guess, will be a little bit more because there's a big park.
Right.
And definitely you have 2 parks along the side of Nelson Park. You have the sitting park and the one down Nelson Avenue itself, and it's a lot of kids throughout the day. But it's not just those parks. Talking about just all the parks within the building.
yeah, we took that in consideration in on the PO, the number of signs of putting, not just one for each park,
Sure.
obviously, but different spots around playgrounds, particularly entrances.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, apparently you need to come here more often because we have so many things to talk to you about. So
Happy to.
thank you for being here, Bill.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
We all good? Yes. Have a resolution next week then to establish this as part of the capital project? Great.
Thank you, Tom.
Hey, I'd like to invite Tom Warren back up to talk about tax certiorari and refund, judgment and refund for Friends Construction, Inc.
Yes, we've been fortunate the past couple of years. We haven't had very many tax certiorari claims. We did have one recently, and as you know, we're not the assessing unit. The town provides the assessments for us, and they defend and settle the tax certiorari claims. So we do have a court order for property on Spring Street, and I did look at the tax map to see which parcel it was. It's one of the two vacant lots that's at St. Paul's Place on Spring Street, and it's for 4 years, 2013 to 2016, and the total amount of the refund is $1,620.83, which is covered by the village's budget this year. So there'll be a resolution on next week's agenda authorizing the refund to be made.
I think you mean right next to the bus stop?
Yes, there's two lots, and this would be the lot
Is this the one
that's
that's
closer.
slated to be developed? It's been going through the land use process?
No, because that would be,
No, that's,
Okay.
that's 49 Spring Street Court.
yeah.
All right.
I have to look it up now. So, Paulson Spring Street.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to introduce Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan, who will be discussing amendment to snow and ice agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. As you know, we present to the board every year the agreement with New York State with regard to snow and ice removal. Actually, this year we will be receiving an additional $14,390.78 from the state for a total expenditure of $39,374.78. As the state writes, due to the severity of the winter during 2018-19, the municipality requests that the municipal snow and ice agreement estimated expenditures be revised, and they will be revised upwards, as I said, by the $14,000. And this would just be a resolution to the board next week authorizing the village manager to execute the amendment to the agreement with the state.
Great. We're happy to take more money.
Thank you, Stuart.
And I will just continue, so we can do that. If you folks remember, a couple of weeks back, we discussed the property at 35 Washington and the gentleman who had encroached on village property, and we had entered into an agreement there with him, and that's been signed, and he is, in fact, he paid $1,500. At 16 Sarah Street, we have a similar situation. The individual there constructed a series of steps which encroach onto village property. And our building inspector, in fact, when reviewing the project, issued a revision letter which noted that the survey provided indicates that a portion of the landscaping staircase is constructed in the Village of Ossining right-of-way. The staircase is not permitted to be encroaching on the right-of-way, and approval from the Board of Trustees would otherwise be needed. I believe there is, in fact, a violation that has been issued to this property owner for his construction or encroachment onto the village right-of-way without any permit or approval. And I think that deals with his overall work. Obviously, this could not be permitted because it's the village property. I'm just coming here because, as I said, it does present a situation similar to 35 Washington. And if the board was interested in entering to a similar agreement with this property owner with regard to 16 Sarah Street, the owner is Claudio Villa. And as I said, it's 16 Sarah, and what it would involve is it looks like from the survey about a step and a half. So it's not.
You have the drawings?
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah.
When was this done? When was it? When were the stairs put in?
Let me just see this. The architect's plan is, well, these were all submitted after the fact. So he submitted his plans to the village in March of 2019. When he did the work is not clear, but he clearly is doing this to correct or get approval for work that he did. He did additional work, including some retaining walls and some other work on the property. But the one thing that he did do that was picked up by the building department was with regard to the encroachment. So it is I'm happy to pass this down to Trustee Quezada.
One of these.
If we were to make the same agreement that we made with 35 Washington Street, what would the cost be?
$1,500.
Okay.
That's what we did to 35 Washington.
And so it's the same amount of.
It's smaller, but you know what? We just basically we just sort of calculated
Okay.
what the penalty would be, and
Okay.
so we came up with 1,500.
So that's what I want to see the drawings.
Yeah,
The other
hang on.
drawings-
Yeah.
Sorry.
Trustee Quesada is looking at the Google image of.
Well, you said a step and a half, right? So
Yeah, if you're interested, this is a
He
survey,
doesn't know which house it is.
and this tiny thing down there,
So it's this house right here.
right? So it's 16.
Oh, so
there's
they
a step
introduced
at the
So
very
steps
they,
where
bottom.
they were not
added,
already.
they were added those steps. So if they would have kept it what they have, so to speak,
He would be
it would have
within,
been
he would be
okay.
within
Yeah,
the
he
village
would.
boundary.
Village.
He would
Okay.
not be
Okay.
encroaching. Correct.
I understand that.
Okay, well, it does seem like we have a template that we used a month ago,
And
so
we
that's
discussed this.
sort of the easiest path forward, right? And does anybody
this-
feel
this
strongly that
not-
this is a different scenario? It seems pretty similar.
This doesn't have any sidewalks along that side of the street.
It just goes right to the curb line.
Yes, literally it's just.
Right.
Yeah,
Sarah's
there's no
pretty narrow.
sidewalks, yeah. I mean, there's only one sidewalk
the other side.
on one part of the street.
One house has a sidewalk.
Yes.
Okay, well, we can, I'll certainly go take a look at it, but thank you, that's very helpful, that little Google image, the magic of technology. Does anybody have anything to add, or can we suggest that Stuart move forward as we have in the past?
we've discussed this. We have a decent template that I'm okay with, and other board's okay with. Deputy Mayor Levin brought up a great point last time that we all supported, that it should not be tolerated, hence why the penalty will be included in your.
Same,
Correct.
$1,500,
So-
In
yeah.
the license agreement, is
Yeah.
what it is.
So yeah,
There's
I'm
no
with it.
utilities underneath any of that stuff, sure. There's nothing that the village needs to access.
No, but the agreement provides that if we
Sure.
had to get in there, we would go in there. If we had to take it apart, we couldn't. He would have to.
And it's their responsibility to pay for
Right.
repairs, yeah.
Thank you.
It couldn't be nearly as invasive as what we saw in the last instance, which I just drove by again and walked by last week. Really, really obviously does not belong where it is, and this couldn't possibly be as noticeable. So, all right. Is there anything else in our televised meeting, or do we move forward with executive session? There's
Yeah,
nothing
I-
else on here, but
There isn't, but I should have added it. I don't know if it's going to take too long. So I got a couple of emails. The park, Henry Gordon down by the waterfront. I just needed, I should have maybe emailed you, so it may not be appropriate tonight, but when we cut the deals like with Optimum, et cetera, for internet service in all of our parks, that park doesn't seem to have internet. And when I went down there, I couldn't get any internet service. And I thought part of the deal with Optimum was that our parks and public spaces will all have internet access.
you mean a hotspot, like Optimum hotspot?
Yeah, it just doesn't have, I couldn't get any internet at all. So I don't know, is this you, Stuart? Is it Village? I don't know who this is. But I figure contract, I figure internet, it's got to be some legal thing, because I think the public would appreciate if we're entitled to internet throughout our public spaces, we should have that.
We'll look into it.
Thank you.
are we ready to move into exec? All right. Okay. Then we need a motion to adjourn into executive session for matters of real property, matters of personnel related to specific persons, and to meet as a board of police commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week for our legislative session at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility. This meeting is now adjourned to executive session.